in this video series on high performance computing cluster. And in the previous slides video, I talked about what is high performance computing cluster is, what are the key components of a cluster or an HPC from a user or a bioinformatician perspective. And in this particular short video, what I will talk about is how the HPC can help you in your bioinformatic analysis. We talk about the general HPC architecture, specifically with respect to Xanadu. We talk about the three distinct submit nodes are Xanadu submit external, Xanadu submit internal, and transfer node. And we talk about the Xanadu submit external and Xanadu submit internal are further split into 5 virtual submit nodes. They are different partitions, and each of the different partitions has a different you can say have resources available across them, and why they're grouped, what are the properties based on their grouped together. So this is a simplified diagram how the whole process of data analysis happens. So multiple users, so any users can connect to the cluster through the head node through a secure shell connection, and it will be different if you're trying to use Windows or whether you are using a Mac, and we'll talk about that one, how you can do it. So you connect to the head node, so you're logged into the system. Then based on, then you're going to submit a requirement of your resources. So based on what kind of analysis you want to do, you will ask for certain kind of resources in terms of CPU, in terms of RAM, and also in terms of which partition you would like to your job to be run. Once you put those requests along with the analysis script, basically request becomes part of a queue. And the queue works on first come first serve basis. If you are the first one to submit, you are ahead of the queue, and the resource manager will look for the adequate resources you have requested on the compute nodes. Once those resources are available, your job, or basically your request, is sent to the compute node where those resources are, and that's where your analysis starts happening. So this is generally layout how the whole process happens. Now what I want to basically discuss about is how the bioinformatic applications get supported on a high performance computing cluster. The key concept around that one is parallelism. The thing is, you're reducing the time it will take bioinformatic analysis. So the first one is what I want to do is sort of like multi-threading approach, where you have a big problem, which I mean is a big data set, and you want to get it analyzed. So rather than running the whole big problem or big data set across one CPU, what the scripts or basically the application you might be using could do is split this into smaller chunks, and each of these chunks then run through an individual CPU, and each chunk's solution is then received, and then it's compiled together to give you the final solution. So rather than running this big data set across one CPU, running them into this method, you are reducing the time 6-fold. The other basically key usage you would see is in certain bioinformatic applications, you have hundreds or thousands of the samples, and the data from all those thousands of samples have in the data which you have is exactly of the same format. So you're going to run through exactly the same analysis of all those 1,000 files. So in this particular scenario, let's say we have 4 samples, and we got 4 data files from all those 4 samples, and we want to analyze them. So rather than analyzing one at a time, and then wait for one to finish and then put the second one for analysis, in this approach what we are doing is we're trying to analyze all the 4 files in parallel at the same time. So that reduces our time 4-fold. Further, if the kind of analysis what we are doing is supporting multi-threading, the kind of approach we saw earlier, what we can do is can split into the whole input or the file 1 or the input data into 2 smaller chunks, processing at the same time on 2 CPU parallelly, and we can get the final solution. So in this particular approach, rather than running one file across one CPU at a time, this approach running all the 4 files simultaneously across 2 CPUs, we are reducing the time 8-fold. So that's how the general usage of the cluster is. It reduces the amount of time that is required to analyze your data sets. Now, which approach you will be taking for your in your analysis entirely depends upon the application you are running. So one thing you have to look for whether your application actually supports multi-threading. If it does, that's great. However, running the processes in parallel is pretty much can be done. We'll talk about array jobs in that one, and how they can help you processing multiple files at the same time. So this is pretty much what I would like to convey in this particular video.